Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk about whole life success. So we talk with people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really interesting things in their space that we can find out a little bit more about their journey and what they're doing, and translate them into our own lives as well, hopefully. So we talk to lots of athletes, lots of entrepreneurs, lots of CEOs, just people again doing really interesting things. And have one of those that we're going to talk to today. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll also know that we connect with Third Z, which is a Canadian company that I know has kind of taken North America by storm from that standpoint. But they really look at sleep and sleep effectiveness. And we know that that's the key to not just building muscle or improving athletic performance for those people that are interested in that, but also just increasing productivity. So they have a PM recovery collagen, and it's an all natural powder that they have. So they make sure that it's really just packed with nutrients and amino acids, and supports quality sleep and muscle recovery as well. So there's no melatonin, no sedatives, any of those things as well. So if it is something that you'd be interested in, go to either into our Instagram profile, and you'll see in there a link through, and you can get a code, which is just BIBM20. You can get 20% off, or you can go directly to their website and do that as well. So it's thirdz.com. And so today, super excited to have Caren Carnegie with us today. She's the founder of Transform Fitness Coaching. She's a certified personal training specialist and a certified spiritual life coach. She brings that unique blend of professional expertise and personal experience to her coaching practice, which I know we're going to talk lots about. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of overcoming injury, self-doubt, some of those things personally, and probably how that translates into coaching as well. But also the effects of strength training and self-care and how that fits in as well. So she connects those things together for her clients. And I know we're going to talk lots about that today. So first of all, thanks for taking some time with us, Caren. Really appreciate it.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. So why don't we start a little bit, because I know that everybody has a journey to getting to where they are. But one of the things is I know that well, I guess was it a pivotal change for you to decide that I need to kind of change something in my own life to kind of move this forward, or is it something that's just progressed over time where you've kind of realized that this is kind of the end result of some other things that have kind of happened in your life? What's that story look like for you?
You know what? It was a bit of a slap in the face. And I think, well, when I think back now, there was definitely signs leading up to it. But, and I think that a lot of coaches, and I hear them a lot, when they're speaking to you too, and I've heard a lot of stories about that moment that made them realize that something needed to change. And for me, it was my own version of rock bottom, where I was drinking on a daily basis. I was really reliant on alcohol, um, and I injured myself as a result. So that was really the moment where I realized that something needed to change. And, and knowing everything that I know now, I realized that some of those behaviors and actions and reliance on alcohol was really my own way of dealing with things that I had suppressed over time. So it was that moment where, it was November 1st, 2019, where I broke my ankle. I'll never forget the day, but
Yeah.
then something needed to change. And then the changes weren't perfect. They were very small, they were very incremental, and I didn't know where to start. And I think a lot of people, I don't think, I know there are a lot of people out there that feel the way that I felt, where they don't know where to start. And I followed my gut, I followed my instinct, and I felt like, okay, I want to be stronger on the inside. So what can I do? Well, maybe I can lift weights. But I knew boot camps weren't for me. The idea of that seemed daunting. I didn't want
Yeah.
to join, classes because I was scared I was going to embarrass myself. I didn't want to walk into a gym because I thought I was going to be criticized. So why was I feeling all those things? And I'm not alone in that. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a second. But then finally, I did come across a personal trainer because I thought for me, I need to do this one-on-one. I need guidance. I can't risk injuring myself. I am going from a place of no knowledge about fitness to wanting to do this. So the best approach for me was to hire a personal trainer one-on-one. And that's what I did. And then I think, at that time, I replaced one addiction with another, where, strength training kind of became that for me. I
Yeah.
mean, and now I look at it differently. My reason for still doing it has changed,
Hmm.
but it got me through that time. And I learned a lot, and I related, there's a lot of metaphors in strength training that we can relate to the rest of our lives, and overcoming challenges with, every single rep, the things that you don't think you can do. Well, look at you, you're doing it and you're progressing week to week. We talk as personal trainers about RPE, and we label that on exercises, rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
And I started actually kind of looking at things that, in my life, the things that made me uncomfy. And I was putting RPEs on them to see, at first maybe one thing would be like a 10. And then I
Yeah.
was like, no, that's a 4 now. And it was just kind of a fun way to look at it. But, I think again, there's a lot of people out there that don't know where to start. And um and I realized, and even after becoming a fitness coach too, I went from, wanting to go and start my own fitness journey and not knowing where to belong,
Hmm.
to now as a fitness coach, not knowing where I belong. And there's a big group of people that I feel are feeling the same way, and that are getting left behind when it comes to fitness. Fitness is really growing at a very fast momentum. And there's all these layers upon layers upon layers that are very overwhelming, very daunting, and it's preventing people from having their own story.
Yeah.
And don't want it to I don't want people to wait until that their version of rock bottom happens before they start.
Yeah.
And having the spiritual skill set that I do, I don't just know that this is happening, I can feel it. I feel it when I talk to my clients, when they come in for their initial conversations. I feel it from them. I feel their overwhelm. I feel their confusion
Yeah.
on where to start. I see that they don't see themselves in what's being portrayed in fitness. So they're
Yeah.
scared to start. There's these young moms who, can't fathom leaving their house for groceries,
Yeah.
let alone a workout class.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Yeah.
This is a And so what I realized, and and it's true when they say that on the other side of a breakdown, we get a breakthrough. And I realized that I am not actually an advocate for fitness. I feel like fitness gets all kinds of advocacy. People know the benefits of exercise and strengthening their muscles. They know they should. It's one of the million shoulds that swirl around in their mind that keeps them up at night.
Yeah.
I don't think fitness needs any more advocacy. So instead of advocating fitness to people, what I want to do is advocate people back to fitness.
Yeah. And now, Caren, you mentioned, I think yourself, that going through the process you did helped you by doing fitness and kind of approaching it differently, helped you kind of reconnect with yourself.
Yeah.
Is that, talk to us a bit about that, and maybe how that's also something that's maybe a little bit different with how you approach your clients as well, and in adding on to what you were just kind of talking about there about maybe doing things a little differently that way.
And how I did, and when I started in 2019 with my trainer, and then I was forced to work out alone with no knowledge
Mm, yeah.
by myself at home because COVID hit and the gyms were closed.
Hmm.
Um, I started using strength training, and I still do actually as spiritual practice. And I use it to ground myself, and I use it as a chance to, if I can, turn down the volume on my mind so I can just inhabit my body. And I do that by focusing on my breath. And I do that by focusing on every muscle during every rep. I bring my awareness away from my mind into the muscle that's being worked. And that's really how I connect with myself through my exercise, through my strength training. And I still do it at home, and I
Yeah.
still do it alone. And, and that's the message I want to reach to people. You do not need to look beyond yourself. Fitness has become an industry. I don't know when that happened because
Yeah.
to me, industry means that you're giving somebody money for a service. What does it mean to be fit then? What does fitness mean? Fitness is all encompassing. It isn't just about, getting your body, built or jacked. It's, about being able to be sound in your body, happy in your body. So it's all encompassing. It's
Yeah.
holistic. It's
Yeah.
spiritually, mentally, physically. It's, so if we can, and that's how I look at maintaining my workouts and maintaining my progress now is that I look at it because I want to, I don't want fitness for anybody to be a short season.
Yeah.
I want it to go into, well into your 80s and beyond. What's the rush? I want people to be able to exercise their whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
actually, Caren, that would be interesting. Your ideas for yourself, maybe to start with, is that um, I mean, you have a busy life outside of, people think, okay, if you're a fitness coach, that's what you do. But that is only a part of what you do, and you have your own fitness and wellness and all of those things as well. But you have family, you have all of those things. So um, how do you attack that to be as balanced as possible, knowing, obviously fitness would be a big part of your life because of what you do. But there
yeah,
are a whole bunch of other things that's other people at home are probably thinking, oh, I'm during this time in my life, it's super hard to be able to make time for these other things. How do you approach it? And then how does that kind of translate to your clients at different seasons of their life, I guess?
for sure. So balance is really important, like you said, and that is again a barrier, that gets in the way of people from even starting because they're like, "Yeah, I've got way too much on my plate right now. I cannot handle, joining a gym or doing this program." So, and I prioritize it and I work out in a way that is good for me. I design my own programs knowing that I have this and this and this also going on. I'm a mom. I also work as a dental hygienist still,
Yeah, yeah,
and I run my own business. I don't need to, I don't, being at the gym 5 days a week or working out 5 days a week doesn't work for me and what I have going on. But it's a really important thing that I make sure that I do prioritize because I know that I'll get energy back from it. So I can go off and I can, do the things that I need to do for my family and to do for myself because what I get from fitness, I'm not, I get from it. I get
yeah,
from it. And we
yeah,
all have our days where, it becomes too much. There's other factors. We're very multidimensional. We need to remember that. We talk as personal trainers about making programs. We can't be programmed. We have so many other factors going on in our life and that we need to change requires consistency. I think we've seen it, we read it, we know it,
yeah,
but it also requires forgiveness and it requires compassion. And I think of a child, and I think that we can all relate to, a child, whether it's your own or you've witnessed it as a child having a meltdown in the middle of Costco, like emotions exploding everywhere, you know?
yeah,
What would you do to that child? Would you say, here, have this pre-workout and keep pushing? You wouldn't. God, I hope you wouldn't,
yeah, yeah,
you know? But you would go down on your knees and you would look that child in the eye and you would hug that child
yeah,
and you would show them compassion and you would say, you know what? I understand what you're going through. Tomorrow is a new day. But for some reason, we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing these people that they don't even want to start because they have this all or nothing idea that if they don't give it their all, that they might as well throw all their progress away. What kind of messaging is that? I
yeah,
don't, that doesn't hit home for me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and I don't work, I work out maybe twice a week, 3 times a week, maybe once a week, but I'm still progressing
yeah,
because it's important to me. It's in my heart, and I'm doing it in a way that I've created balance, you know,
Yeah.
where I'm still enjoying those things that give me peace. I'm taking rest when I need it, when my nervous system is through the roof because of other factors going on in my life. So I want people to, I think the biggest message there is just to listen to yourself
Yeah.
and what you need and forgive yourself. This all begins here. You know, people don't need to tell us to do it. It all starts here. Show yourself some forgiveness. Show yourself compassion. Because at what point does that child inside, that one that was having a meltdown in Costco, that child is still in here. We're just bigger.
Yeah.
And we learn to deal with those emotions a little bit differently, not in the healthiest way. We suppress them, we repress them. They show up in our body later on in symptoms, you know,
Yeah.
which is usually when I see people for their initial consultation.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, at one point I would have really bragged about my ability to repress and suppress emotions. It's not something to brag about.
Yeah.
It showed up
Yeah.
in my actions. It showed up in a reliance of alcohol. You know, if I could take that back, I would, but
Yeah, yeah,
you know, I can't.
that's interesting to say it that way too. That you know, it's that a lot of people do see that as a badge of honor to be able to be very, you know, almost non-emotional about things and very kind of regimented, but understanding that that's still there whether you hide it or not. So,
Very
um,
much.
you know, and we talked a little. It's related to that as well. Is how do you approach goal setting from that standpoint? Because, you know, well, are you a person who has, you know, very defined goals around your business, around your life, all of those things, or are you a little more, you know, go with opportunities as they come? How do you kind of look at that?
You know what I love talking about goals. So I think that, you know, where I started with Transform, my goals were very different. I didn't really know where this was going. And I really
Mhm.
questioned, as somebody who is, you know, inclined towards spirituality, I really questioned up until recently, even because I am still human too. I've got a foot in both worlds.
Sure.
That why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why was I put here as a personal trainer when, you know, I don't fit in this box or I don't fit in this mold, you know, why, you know? And I thought that maybe I mixed up messages somewhere and I was really supposed to be doing something else, you know? Um, but when it comes to goals, that they change all the time. And when I'm talking to members,
Hmm.
you know, at their initial conversation is, you know, and we talk about goals and their goals might be to um, lose weight and to get stronger. Okay, so like it's pretty, you know, standard. Okay,
Yep.
so you know, we talk a bit about that, and you know, I will always keep that in mind when I'm designing workouts for people's goals. But then I don't stop there. You know, we don't stop at, you know, that personal training questionnaire. We don't stop um, at those goals. Then we start talking, and it's questions that I've designed for myself for Transform. Is, you know, about their why, and I think everybody can relate to, you know, what is your why? You know, we ask people that all the time. A lot of, you know, industries do. What's your why?
Yep.
But
Yep.
I've actually broken it down even more. So,
Yeah.
you know, where I ask people, you know, what brought you to this point right now?
Mhm.
You know, and it was, you know, my one member, her answer was because my nurse practitioner said that what I was doing wasn't exercise, that I needed to get my heart rate up. Okay. What activity makes you happy? What are you doing when you're the happiest? That's a really interesting one, and you'll learn a lot about somebody. When you find out what gives somebody their spark, maybe for you it's camping,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So, you know, I always keep that in mind when I'm designing their workouts and designing the recommendations that I make for them outside of the gym. There are always recommendations outside of the gym that meet them where they're at right now. I'm not asking anyone to go over and beyond themselves. It meets them where they at right now. So what makes them the happiest? So then somebody might say, playing on the floor with my grandchildren.
Mhm.
Yeah. To me, that sounds like that's actually their goal
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
be able to be on the floor
Yeah.
playing with their grandchildren as much as possible
Yeah.
for as
And
long.
extending that as long as you possibly can. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is again where the listening comes in and not just hearing, really listening. And I don't do consultations over the phone. I do them by means of this, and
Yeah.
I do them in person because people say a lot with their bodies. When they're talking about a trip that they went on and their hiking adventure, and you see the tears well up in their eyes because it was such a fabulous experience. That's what they want more of in their life.
Yeah.
They don't want more pull-ups in their life. No, they just don't do that because that's, what, maybe it is goal and we'll get there. But is that really their goal?
Yeah.
It might be to have more experiences like they had that really made them happy. And then I ask people, tell me more about you. Tell me who you are. I know what you do, but tell me who you are without saying your roles.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? No one has an answer for me. Nobody has an answer for me. They do not know who they are. Somewhere along the way, they lost that answer.
Yeah.
We need to find that.
So, Caren, how does that fit into a person's mindset? Like when you look at the, I mean, how you approach things probably is, it probably changes as some of these questions happen, where, your perception of yourself and perception of what you're doing probably changes, which may also kind of change the mindset around approaching some of these things. Like how does you must see that change in your clients or your members as you start having these conversations. Like, is it something that you see and kind of, you can visually see as you go through the process? And is it something that actually changes for sure?
That I can see, and I can see it when it happens. I can see it when all of a sudden, and transform is not about transforming bodies. It's transforming fear into other more productive feelings like excitement. It's about transforming the way that we communicate to yourself. And oftentimes it's just that little adjustment of how they communicate with themselves,
Yeah,
like saying, "Oh, I have to go to the gym today." No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to. But what if instead, whether you believe it or not, what if instead you said, "I get to,"
yeah,
or "I want to"? Okay. So just changing the way that they speak to themselves, creating empowerment too at the gym. I had my trainer who's become a lifelong friend. I went to the gym and thought that I needed a trainer for about 4 years. I didn't, and I know that now, but it was a part
hmm
of my journey then. But my goal for people, and maybe from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense. I don't want them to need me. I don't want them to need me. And usually that's happening pretty quickly because with how the tools that I'm giving them to approach exercises, but
yeah,
also, the things that we've talked about that maybe make them a little bit uncomfy in their life, communicating with themselves differently, that leads to loving themselves a little bit more. So when they don't question themselves, and as any good personal trainer would do, I see what they're capable of inside of the gym and I progress that for them. Because if I left it to them, maybe they wouldn't do that because they're thinking that they can't. But
yeah,
I know they can.
yeah,
I can see them. I can see them doing it. I know they can do it. And then they get so proud and I see it. And that lady that I was mentioning that, was told by her nurse practitioner that what she was doing was not exercise. If that nurse practitioner had asked a few more questions, she would have known that walking helped this lady with her mental health, that this lady's occupational stress was so high, yet the nurse practitioner told her that she needed to get her heart rate up. This lady's heart rate was up the minute she woke up in the morning,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So if we just talk and we really listen, and she thought that, I need to be here 4 days a week. No, no, no. I think that to start, let's start with 2 workouts a week, But, what if you did a little bit of breath work, 1 day a week?
Yeah.
You did some stretching 1 day a week. You don't even have to leave your house, but I incorporate it into that program,
Yeah.
to make it really achievable, but where I think would be beneficial based on where they're at right now. And that metaphorical weight of the world that this woman had on her back, I saw it come off,
Yeah. Yeah.
so she discovered I can do this.
Yeah.
I can feel better and I can still enjoy the walking and all that stuff, which is very much exercise.
It's
I can
yeah, it's
enjoy.
exercise and it is part of that kind of holistic way of looking at things. I mean, it's not just the prototypical way, I guess, that some people think of when you do that. I am interested, Caren, with because you have built kind of this business. You mentioned kind of you have other things that you do as well. But as an entrepreneur and just purely on kind of your experience from that end, has there been something that has jumped out as, wow, that was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be, or this is way more rewarding than I thought it was going to be, or any of those things just from because lots of people who are building their own businesses and doing those things are probably listening right now too.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah,
I felt all of the emotions, throw an emotion at me. I felt it.
yeah,
It is hard, and I, to, and I like to, portray the messages that I'm trying to inspire people to start. Um, I'm trying my hardest, but when you're starting from, you know, kind of scratch, it's
yeah,
really, really hard to gain that momentum. But, I'm trying with every message. If it just reaches one person and makes a difference, not fitness or non-fitness related, if it
mhm,
gets them through their day or gets them into that work meeting with a different perspective, then that's really amazing. And it's why I do it. And it's so rewarding. And watching these people that come to me that just didn't know where they fit in all this,
yeah,
make those big, big, moves with really nothing. They didn't have to, use fancy equipment. They could work out at home. They didn't need all these things that they thought they did. That's kind of being portrayed out there as a bit of a luxury
yeah,
when, you know, that they had it in here the whole time. That
yeah,
becomes really rewarding. But there is this group, and this is where my spiritual sense comes in. And I've learned to really differentiate what is my own thoughts and what I am getting, from others. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to represent this group. Some of them I've met, many I haven't yet, because they're holding back, so and it's hard from most people don't know who I am or what exactly I do. Um, but I'm trying, if I can just get that message out. And, when I say it's your time as my, that phrase that I say, if it's, I just want them to know that, it's okay.
yeah,
There's somebody here that understands you. And us all personal trainers, we all have something in common is we want to help. We do, it's no fault of anybody that things have kind of just, kind of exploded. But we need to remember who we're talking to. Are you talking to the person you are now? Or are you talking to the person that you were when you started? Better yet, the person that you were before you started. I want to hear from people. I want to hear, what do you need to see more of? You know, do you feel like you need a glam squad before you go to the gym? I don't want that. Do we need to maybe normalize maybe not having that? Are you nervous about how to use the equipment? That's fair. Are you worried that you're going to do something wrong? So do we need to be showing people maybe not us so much, once we're using the equipment, but how we're setting up the equipment before we use it? These are just ideas, but let's remember, coaches, anybody, when you look at stuff, look at it with a discerning eye and say, would this have benefited Caren from 2019 or earlier? Would this have helped me, or would this have made me want to still not go?
Yeah.
More often than not, it's still going to make me not want to go.
Yeah.
So we need to just remember who we're talking, who we're talking to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that there's people that could really use our help out there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great. I love the part where you talk about not just from when you started to before you started, because a lot of this is engaging people and compelling people that it's okay. So, um,
Yeah.
so
And don't get me wrong, it's
yeah,
inspiring. And like these trainers have like a ton of knowledge.
sure,
Like it's wild, but it almost becomes like we're just kind of like we're it's just piling on, piling on. So when I see these people, I can actually feel they're overwhelmed because I've been there and I still am there as a personal trainer. I'm still overwhelmed,
sure.
with everything that I see. So I think, be, aware of that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a great thing to point out. So, one of the things that we always do, and I know they've kind of, I'm sure, have picked out different things as we've went along, but somebody who maybe hasn't started yet and is really, or is maybe starting one avenue, whether it's fitness, and maybe wants to do some of that mix you talked about a little bit about, how do I get things started where I think of things from both a fitness or wellness side and a spirituality side. Do you have a couple of quick tips on here's a couple of things that people can do to start themselves on that path? And then obviously we'll go into maybe how they can kind of look at some of the things you do as well. So, do you have a couple of tips from that end?
I don't do anything fancy. I do nothing fancy.
Yeah.
So first thing, let go of any preconceived notion that you have that to be spiritual, you need to go beyond yourself. To be fit, that you need to go beyond yourself. Get rid of that. Number one, gone. Um, and focus back in on your heart. Be self-aware. And what I mean about self-aware, our minds are very full. They're all full of all kinds of ideas. And they're often, create scenarios that just haven't even happened yet and maybe aren't even gonna happen. So be more in your heart, be aware of your body and how it feels. Our body sends us a lot of messages. People think, and again, I hear it when we do our initial conversation, that people think that their bodies are done. They're not. They're very smart. They're very smart. It's just the language is different. We're used to the language that we get up here. We get it in words and imagery. Our body talks to us in symptoms a lot of the time. So I'm keeping that in mind too when I program people's workouts. I don't stop there. I keep their symptoms and what they're feeling in their bodies in my awareness because there's often really good messages behind that. So again, that lady that was dealing with a lot of occupational stress, she had tightness in her back. She was literally carrying the weight of the world on her back.
Mhm.
And once she got that weight off, guess what? Her back felt better. So, just being aware of the messages that our bodies might be trying to tell us and just having an open mind about that. And so again, being aware of your body, being aware of your actions and your reactions. We have a lot of really automatic response. Before you respond to anything, take a breath first. Take a breath first and react more from here than here. So just and communicate, just maybe reevaluating how you're communicating with yourself. So, you know, if they want to start, with spirituality and they want to start with physical fitness, they do not need anything that they do not already have. That's what I want them to know. That is the biggest takeaway from the question that you just asked me.
Yep.
They already have it. They could start right now. They could have started yesterday.
Yeah. Wow, that's
They
that's
just
great.
needed the determination and the drive and the love and the compassion for themselves to start. You know, spirituality, I don't know if I'm doing it right. What is right? It's the most natural thing in the world, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, and but that too has become a bit of an industry where, you know,
Yeah.
you feel like you have to go to Bali for a week to be spiritual. Don't, you don't. I am being spiritual right now with you at my island. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you
Yeah.
don't. It's just having love for yourself. It's an understanding. Spirituality, by definition, is an understanding that we are all connected. I have a very big understanding of that. You know, again, people I've met, people that I haven't met, I cry for them sometimes because I need people to understand that this group of people that feel lost and that haven't been able to have their story yet, it's big. It is very big and it is heavy and it is serious. So it's important that we recognize that they're there, you know, and I want them to know that it's okay, you know, that, you know, to reach out for help. There's people that understand and listen. You know, when your clients or your members are are talking about stuff that they really love or talking about things that make them uncomfy, really listen.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't just talk the talk, really walk the talk as well. You
Yeah.
know, because these people got some serious unique challenges going on, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
I love talking about my story, but that's mine. You know, there's people out there that just have all kinds of stuff going on. So for us to program this, you know, this, workout that is kind of a
Yeah.
template, you know,
Yeah.
that's not fair because they're multidimensional with all these other factors going on that we need to take into account. So this is where my people advocacy comes in and not my fitness advocacy. You
Yeah.
know, I know the benefits, they know the benefits. We need to remind, and this can go for any industry, any aspect of your life, is that we just need to remember people are not robots. They're
Yeah.
multidimensional beings with all kinds of stuff going on. That we just, we need to just look out for one another and show compassion
And that
for
wellness
well,
isn't just one dimensional. I mean, there are so many things that contribute to that, and a lot of it, yeah, with people with busy lives and everything else. I mean, there can be a whole lot of things that we don't know, and and it has to fit into those to make it work. If people are going to, I mean, obviously, people have probably heard lots of things that are interesting to them, and maybe want to find out more. What are some of the best ways of connecting with your programs and with yourself, Caren?
so connecting. I'm on social media. I don't have a big following by any means, but if I can get my voice out there, and so
Yeah,
social media, Instagram at Caren Carnegie Fitness, Facebook, Transform Fitness Coaching, my website, transformfitnesscoaching.com,
yeah,
email, Caren at Transform Fitness Coaching. All really easy to remember, but yeah, I'm definitely, and I want to talk to not just, and I want to make it perfectly clear that although I'm not an advocate for fitness, I am an ally of fitness. And I think that there's a lot of good here that can be done in such an influential space.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of good can happen here. And the same with social media, it can do a lot of good.
Mm.
You know, I use a lot of, advertising and stuff on social media, not to promote my business, but to promote messages that if just one person sees, that maybe it can change their day.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of good that can happen. I'm one person and I won't stop.
yeah,
I will not stop until, you know, and I just won't. I'm here for everybody that, that just kind of needs that reassurance or they need a voice. So,
yeah,
um, but, I want to hear from coaches and I want to hear from people. I want to hear, what they need to see to make them feel more included in all of this.
yeah,
And I want to hear from coaches, if coaches are listening to this and they're it's stirring up any kind of emotion. I want them to explore that, why am I feeling this way? And there's a lot of good that can be done if we work together. We can make, I'm a little fish in a small sea, but I will not stop swimming.
yeah, yeah,
I keep going, but if I can get even a small percentage of people kind of working together. Just, and even if just the first place we start is just by having a meaningful conversation about it, then that's a wonderful thing. I can't change how my kids saw me in their earlier years, but I can see, I can control how they see me now
Mm.
and prioritizing myself.
Yeah.
Because when you prioritize yourself, it isn't selfish. It's the most selfless thing you can do because now I can help my family and I can now make a change for part of the world that, kind of needs
Yeah.
help. So then they can go on and show up better for themselves, show up better for their families, and they can show up better in the world because of one thing. That's pretty huge. So imagine the good, and this is,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
talking fitness here. If we use this in other aspects of our lives, I mean, it just really comes down to listening to one another and just showing some compassion
Yeah. Yeah.
and forgiveness with
Yeah.
yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, great things to for everybody to think about, and maybe even we will put in the show notes. We'll put kind of all your links in there, so make sure that if you are listening, make sure you follow and connect with Caren as well. If you haven't hit subscribe in the podcast, do that now. We have great people every week, just like Caren. And again, people I'm sure have taken away lots of great stuff today, Caren, and hopefully we'll find out more and connect with you ongoing as well. But thanks very much for taking the time with us today. Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to. Thank you so much, Jamie.
All right, and everybody else, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.